accumulated ice and snow and so forth. As a matter of fact, they will tell you that you can see the little lines in the polar ice caps. Let's say, you can see 200, 220,000 lines there and so forth. First of all, that's not true. It's actually a lie. I want you to think with me for just a moment. How many of you have opened up a refrigerator freezer door and you've seen two ice cubes flowing together in the middle of the freezer? Is that right? Oh. Now, it is true that you can see these little lines near the surface at the top and even down into the middle, but once you get down in the middle, the pressure of the ice is so great that those lines simply become invisible, and after that it's just, subjective judgment and so forth. And they'll tell you that these little lines in the polar ice caps, those are just like annual rings in a tree. You cut down a tree, you count the rings, and they say, oh, well, you can see 200, 220,000 lines. They're just like tree rings and so forth. So this tells us that the polar ice caps are 220,000, years old. But I don't think so. I mean, when I was an evolutionist, I used to accept that kind of thing, but I don't believe it anymore. Let me show you why. Now, this is a Boeing B-17 medium-range bomber from World War II. This is a Lockheed P-38 fighter from World War II. In 1942, two bombers escorted by 6 fighter planes left the United States to go to England as a part of the war effort in World War II. Now, these planes cannot fly directly across the Atlantic. They don't have nearly enough fuel. And so what they must do is they have to fly first to Bangor, Maine. From Bangor, Maine, they fly to Newfoundland. From Newfoundland, they fly to Greenland. From Greenland on to Iceland and on down to England. Now, these 8 planes took off from the U.S. in 1942. They got to Greenland, and they fueled up on the west coast of Greenland. They started across the polar ice cap of Greenland, ran right smack into a snowstorm. This was a complete whiteout. They couldn't go forward. They tried to turn around, find the base they came from, couldn't find the base they came from. They decided they were going to have to crash land on top of the polar ice cap. Now, the first plane went in with its wheels down, flipped over. Everybody said that's a bad idea. So the other 7 planes came in with the wheels up and just belly landed. Now, after the storm was over, the crews were rescued, but the planes were left there because it was much cheaper, much faster to just build new planes back in 1942. But in 1988, some enterprising American men remembered that those planes were up there, and there's a lot of money in antique aircraft, especially military, and so they decided to go up and get these planes, rehabilitate them and so forth, make some money. And so they took brooms and shovels up there to find these planes. Now you have to understand, these planes are not heavy enough to sink into the ice. Wherever they landed is where they stayed, okay? So they crash landed in 1942. Planes stay exactly where they landed. Well, it's only been 46 years. Anybody want to guess, tell me how many inches, or if you prefer feet, of ice and snow they found on top? Anybody? I mean, it's only been 46 years. How much ice and snow do you think they found? 20 feet. Thank you. I have an opening bid of 20. Do I have another bid? 10. Okay, we have a bid of 10 feet, 20 feet. I'll take one more bid. 50 feet. Oh, my goodness. Well, I have to stop the bidding because all of you are just a little low. You see, what we actually found was 250. In 46 years, 250 feet of ice and snow had formed on top of the plains. This is a picture of Glacier Girl as she looked when found 250 feet below the surface. They had to come back. They couldn't find the planes. They took back the brooms and shovels, came back with sonar and radar that would penetrate the ice, finally found the planes 250 to 270 feet below the surface. They actually had to come back with heavy equipment, bore these big holes all the way down 250 feet. They've actually disassembled her, brought her back up in pieces, reassembled her. She's one of the few flying P-38s in the world today. So let's think. It only took 46 years for 250 feet of ice and snow to pile up on top. That's 5.4 foot per year. Is that correct? I don't think those little lines in the polar ice caps are annual rings. I don't think those are years. I think those little lines are individual storms. That would be much more reasonable, wouldn't it? Oh.